My New Year's resolution in 2021 was to get over my fear of loud noises. I used to have a big problem with going to large gatherings, and given that we're going to have to start doing that at some point again, I thought this would be a good time to kind of adjust to it, right? We're doing it a little bit more and more. And I started by taking up bowling. I started bowling regularly last August, if I remember correctly. And my bowling score has improved quite a bit. My first trip to the bowling alleys, I was scoring 80 or 90, and nowadays I'm scoring an average of 150. But more importantly, I got over my phobia of loud noises. Back in September, we went to phase 3, and I was able to go to Cosmic Bowling. But unfortunately, Seattle has rolled back some of the reopenings, and right now they're only open every other lane, and the lights are on now, I guess, so people can be a little bit more conscious about their hygiene. No more Cosmic Bowling. I don't know why you can't hold Cosmic Bowling. I guess it's just so that people can be more conscious of their surroundings, and maybe to better enforce that people keep their mask on. But the other day while I was doing that, I was kind of missing all the noise and all the activity, and then I realized it wasn't that long ago that I had a big phobia of it, and now I can't live my life without it. And sometimes I find my apartment to be a little bit more quieter than I had hoped. And I used to complain about other people making noises. Now it's the other way around. And it just goes to show there's a very, very thin line between a phobia and almost like an addiction, right? And this wasn't the only time that I've done this, by the way. 10 years ago, I used to have a big fear of flying. And I hadn't flown for 8 years at that point. I flew once after 9/11, scared to death about it. And not long after I took that flight, I was a mess during that trip. My family and I had to go to Taiwan. I had a family member who was ill. Not long after I made that trip, we got home, Columbia crashed, and I swore I was never going to fly again. My mom was so upset at that remark. My mom said, "Don't you think it's your obligation to go see your grandparents when they're ill, or to even go to their funerals?" She said I had to fly at least 3 more times. I didn't want to think about that. I didn't want to believe I would have to do that. Now, I think I know why I never went around to getting over my fear of flying. I was 18, 19 years old at this time, and all of my friends were flying and traveling with their significant other, and I didn't have a significant other to travel with, and it just didn't seem like a big deal that I would never fly again. I don't have anybody to fly with anyway, right? It doesn't seem like a big deal, and so I still didn't get over my fear of flying. I was working on my PhD, and my advisor wanted me to present at a conference in California, and I said, "Oh, great, I could drive there." I was living in Rochester, New York. My advisor just thought I was crazy. I said, "Oh, great. When is that? Because it would probably take me a week to drive there." I think I said something like that, and my advisor her head literally exploded from that remark. But I was almost serious about it. I have driven coast to coast a couple times now. I hadn't at that time, but I knew I could do it. So I ended up not going to that conference. To my advisor's dismay, I ended up going to a conference in Kentucky instead, which was a lot less well-known conference. My advisor thought I was so weird for not wanting to travel to San Francisco. I mean, a popular vacation destination in her mind probably. But I didn't have a significant other to travel with, which is probably why it didn't bother me so much. Now, my second year at that PhD program, I had broken up with my girlfriend. She was very abusive, and I ended up having to leave her. And that first month away from my girlfriend, I discovered all the things that I thought I had to have a girlfriend to do, I could do without, right? I could go to a movie, I could go to a restaurant. And so not long after that, I got over my fear of flying, and I became addicted to flying. After I graduated from my PhD program, I started going to conferences for the Computer Olympiad, and I'm traveling. Actually, one of my big regrets at the beginning of the pandemic was that I didn't fly out of the country before they had locked down all of the borders. I have a few favorite destinations, and the cost of living is a whole lot less too, right? If I had done that, I'd be sitting on a big pile of silver right now, right? At least 2,000, 3,000 ounces that I'd be sitting on during this pandemic. I came to regret it for some time. I don't regret it anymore because I made a lot of important connections locally as well. But then a couple weeks ago we were talking about the Computer Olympiad, and I was almost hoping that it would be held remotely again. You know, when I think about all the headaches that come with flying, right? Not to mention how much time it takes, right? Last year, I didn't even have to take any time off work to go to the Computer Olympiad because it was held in a different time zone. I didn't have to fly. I didn't have to deal with jet lag. I didn't have to deal with, worrying about where I'm going to find my favorite foods at my destination. It just goes to show that I never really feared flying. I didn't fear loud noises. I was emotionally charged about them, and it manifested itself as fear when it could have been the other way around, right? And it just goes to show that there's a very, very thin line between fear and almost like compulsively wanting to do something, right? And if you're dealing with fear, maybe you just need to redirect that emotion, right? Or conversely, if you're dealing with like some sort of addiction, maybe you need to change the tone of that emotional charge and make it become a phobia of some sort, right? And that's kind of what I've done with my eating disorder, right? I used to have a big addiction to various foods, and now it's become almost a phobia, right?